Shabbat Shalom. This week's Parshat is Parshat Mattot. As we come to the close of the book of the Dvar, the book of Numbers. And here in the northeast, in fact in much of the country, we're suffering from tremendous heat wave that makes one feel what our ancestors must have felt as they were wandering in the wilderness. Where do you get shade? And in spite of all that, the concern of the Torah at this part of Bamidbar is preparation for entering the land. That time is almost near. And preparations must be made, and leadership must be trained and aware of their responsibilities as leaders of the people of God. And so the parsha begins with God speaking to Rashi Mattot, the heads of the tribes. It's a rare occurrence in the Torah where Moshe Rabbeinu is bypassed and God speaks directly to the leaders of the tribes. Usually it's to Moshe or to the entire people of Israel. But here, our attention is focused on leadership, on those who have the exalted position of being the heads of the tribes. And what is the concern of Parshat Mattot? What is it that God wants leaders to know? That oftentimes leaders make promises. They say problems will be solved. They promise to do things for the benefit of everyone. And God's message to the leaders of Israel is that when you open your mouth and promise, when you take a vow, that if something happens, this is what you're going to do. God says, understand that more important than what you do is that you keep your word. The gift of language is one of the few things that distinguishes us from all the other creatures on the planet. The ability to think rationally, or at least in theory. The ability to think abstractly, to be able to construct syllables into words, words into sentences, sentences into paragraphs, paragraphs into entire books. To be able to think with history and a vision of a future. That is what makes us most godlike on the planet. How we use our language says a great deal about the content of our character. And so God says that the most important thing in a leader of the Jewish people is that you keep your word. If you promise, you must deliver. You cannot give false hope. That is not serving God's ends. And so as we wind down the book of Bamidbar, and as we are in our own heat wave of a wilderness, be careful what we promise, of the vows that we make, the oaths that we take. The words that come out of our mouths must ring true and must govern our actions. Shabbat Shalom. May you have a Zis and Shabbos, and I'll see you in Shul.